Finally, I've gotten myself some Combiner Wars limbs. Yeah, I've been kinda holding out because most of my purchases are either on stack or just not made yet. These two purchases though definitely give me a good scope of the line, as one of them's clearly the best while the other's clearly the worst. I'm not gonna go full on Bruticus at this point, as I'm holding out for the Takara version. I've got the Hasbro Brawl to replace the Takara one with the terrible head paint job, and an extra Vortex to turn into a plane, because 3D printing is fun! Starting off with Brawl. This tank mode is, well, really bland. I mean, the surface detail is okay, but that's about it. He seems to have everything just underdone with him. For starters, he's got frozen turret syndrome, which considering how the G1 toy had it and this one doesn't, which considering how the G1 toy had it at half the size, it's a pretty big oversight. He's barely got any paint on him, and in most cases it wouldn't be too much of a problem, but the base plastic is the wrong colour. I was expecting a lush green like the toy in the cartoon. Oh wait. This is how he looked in the cartoon. But wait, if Hasbro's doing the cartoon version, and Takara's doing the cartoon version, then we're not getting a green Brawl at all, are we? How do you screw that up? I haven't seen a colour screw up this bad since Unite Warrior's Hotspot. Honestly, there's nothing to talk about with Brawl here. He's a bland, boring tank that is just begging to be a foot. It's nice that he forms a very nice foot, but at the end of the day, the tank mode just plain sucks. Well, at least the combiner kibble pegs in nicely. It doesn't look too out of place in its configuration. Oh, and the cannon moves up, which is also a nice touch. Still, our turret rotation would have been much better.
Oh, and on a side note, apparently, not apparently, it's been confirmed, Hasbro has decided to retool this in several ways, such as for the Computron set and the Dawn of the Predicus set, backwards without this bit, instead with a bit pegged on here with a cockpit for both nose cone and ram horn, is it? Why? This is not a mode! Like, here, if I take the gun off, and just leave it like this and say, oh, I don't know, say, boom. Well, let's just say, boom. That's an alt mode. That's not an alt mode! This is just junk! Why, Hasbro? It's reasons like this that I'm saving up money for Takara. Like, Takara fudged it with Superion and Menasor, but this is ridiculous! Why? 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 Put that back in for the rest of the footage.
Vortex, on the other hand, brings a really nice copter mode. Robots that don't make grey look boring are hard to come by, so this design here is commendable. For starters, the mold itself is really good. The detailing and paneling here has so much cool stuff, and the cockpit is just awesome sauce. Wait, should I really be saying that? That was kind of off script. Ah, whatever. The back section's nice too, even if the outward fins bend inwards too much. I don't really see that as being aerodynamic. One thing I found really cool is how clean the bottom of Combiner Wars figures are. With some exceptions, it's mostly just a couple of robot bits down there. This figure is not without its flaws, however, and a few big ones bring this mode down quite a bit. For starters, those arms on the side, they don't hide it all. I get it. Cramming in an extra 2 modes is difficult, but they should have at least done something else. Still, I can forgive Hasbro for that. What I can't forgive them for, though, is this poor excuse for helicopter blades. I'm not talking about them being 2 blades instead of 4, I'm talking about how flimsy this thing is. Playing hell with the design is every time you get a good swing out of it, the blades seem to fall back. These things really could have had more stability. Another problem is the rocket pods. Why are they yellow? Why are they such an ugly yellow? The color clash really hurts my eyes, and considering how I like G2 toys quite a bit, that's saying something. Finally, the hand-foot gun doesn't work well in the slightest. The sheer lack of tooling on some of these things really bugs me, as they could have easily retooled it to make it landing gear or something. Still, overall, it's not a bad copter mode. For those saying it's Alpha Bravo, stop it. That was a pre-paint for Blades and Vortex here. Alpha Bravo was a repaint before the main guy came out. So no, Vortex isn't Alpha Bravo, MGO. Alpha Bravo is Vortex. For a size comparison, these guys are really small for their size, especially Vortex. Thank God the figures are getting bigger for Titan's return. Brawl's transformation reminds me of Heavy Treads, only a lot more flimsy and a lot less intuitive. I really can't comment on this minimal effort snorefest, as it doesn't bring anything to the table. Vortex, on the other hand, brings some really cool engineering, in his legs at least. The rest of the body barely changes at all, giving his arms even less of an excuse. Still, it could have been worse. Could have been Brawl. Brawl takes center stage in robot mode, for all the wrong reasons. He stands out in a far more, unique way than Vortex. You can't see it behind the microphone, but I'm making quotation marks with my hands when I say unique. Simply put, Brawl sucks. For starters, the waist is a complete joke. How can they do something far better on a toy that had way less mass shifting? That toy was even made during a flop of the line. Did you even see half the crap they put out in that? And there are many ways to quote-unquote fix it, using quotation marks again, and this seems to be the only way that I can figure out. The rest just look weird and require modding and all sorts of things. Now please, for the love of Primus, somebody make a shape waist kit that doesn't attach during transformation. This waist needs fixing, and it gets worse. You know what I think is a far greater oversight? Hollow legs. Even Breakdown doesn't have it that bad. At least he's got enough redeeming qualities to help him overlook it as well. Sadly, there's no way these can be fixed because of the transformation, so I'll stop talking about them. And the colours on this thing, once again, they're terrible! The silver's got a nice shine to it, but against this ugly feces colour, it doesn't work at all. I will give the toy this, it does have a better head than the Unite Warriors version, as I said earlier. Another thing that's kinda cool is that the cannon can detach and become a handheld gun. I say only kinda cool with quotations again because the gun looks kinda lame. Jeez, this guy needs a lot of quotations to get through him. And if I drank alcohol, I'd probably be drinking a lot of beer to drown my sorrows in this terrible purchase. Thankfully, Vortex fares much better. Sharing a similar design to the aerial bots, he retains a lot of the positives they carry. His proportions are pretty awesome for a combined limb, and he's got a lot of nice details here and there. I especially like the arms with their rocket pods, which only just excuses their exposed nature in vehicle mode. The use of the combiner port as a chest piece is a really smart idea, and if Brawl had used the same idea, he could have saved his chest. But he didn't. The head sculpt, despite lacking light piping, is pretty sweet, and the colours work out far better in this mode with red and purple mixed in. It helps break up the harsh yellow. I don't really have that much to complain here, except for the backpack, which is a pretty poor excuse for blade storage, with them barely holding on at all, and the cockpit kibble on the feet. Still, in the grand scheme of things, is pretty good. Oh, and he comes with a gun. It's kinda cool, but it doesn't really seem to do much, but whatever I guess. For articulation, Brawl's got head rotation, extremely limited shoulder ball joints, a ball jointed elbow that only reaches 90 degrees, ball jointed hips, a thigh swivel, and a 90-degree knee bend, and that might be an ankle tilt, but it barely reaches 10 degrees. In his fixed, using quotation marks again, configuration, his waist is static, but in the stock one he gets a waist swivel, and a floppy torso too, so I just wouldn't bother. Vortex, on the other hand, gets a ball-jointed head with incredible upward motion, a ball-jointed shoulder, a bicep swivel, a 90-degree elbow bend, a waist swivel that sadly is a bit broken on mine, ball-jointed hips, a thigh swivel, a 90-degree knee bend, and foot angling. This is barely anything different compared to Brawl, but honestly the head and the waist just make it seem a lot more satisfying. And at least the toe movement works, unlike Brawl's ankles, or lack of. For a size comparison, these guys are kinda small again. Brawl seems a lot smaller than it needs to be though, evident by the undersized head. The review's not over yet though, as these guys have 2 extra modes each. Starting off with leg mode, Brawl basically goes unchanged from his tank formation aside from the optional kneecap. I've got to say, Brawl was born to play a leg here. Does that make up for the other 3 modes? No! But at least it's nice to know that the mode he's gonna be in most of the time works. Vortex sadly doesn't do as well. This mode particularly is where the visible arms show off their worst side. While it looks fine from certain angles, most don't do too well. The cockpit kibble also doesn't work for him. Still, these are pretty good legs. The combiner ports give whichever gestalt you conjure up, or get from the instructions, thigh swivels and 90-degree knee bends. Sadly, the feet are kinda lame. An ankle tilt would have done wonders. Oh hello there, perfect effect. Oh, and you may have noticed, or not, because I'm about to show you now, that you can actually fold up the bottom of Brawl's leg and remove the foot entirely. Is the right length, even though stability would be screwed if you tried that. The arm modes for these guys don't do as well. Vortex does the job okay, but the blades here just don't seem to work and the arms literally have nowhere to go. Well, they do, but then they bash against the forearm. Plus, once again, the helicopter kibble looks terrible here. Still, I like the hand. Although it's lacking in articulation, it's not too bad in its design. Brawl, on the other hand, only has his hand to save him. Remember how I said the other three modes sucked? Well, this mode sucks too. The arms, although essentially treads at this point, don't try to blend it at all. The lower arm also uses the hollow part of the front, which gives him extra articulation at the cost of looking any good. The arm also happily falls apart without warning too, which just adds to how bad Brawl is. Still, the arms give okay articulation. Depending on the torso, you can get up to 90 degrees outward motion, and regardless, you get 180 degree rotation. The arms also have a nice bicep swivel and a double jointed elbow each. It's just a shame that Brawl's too flimsy to do it properly. Vortex is pretty good. I can forgive him for many of his flaws due to the fact that he is a Scramble City limb, which makes a lot of these things difficult. Hasbro really did well here, and I'm happy to award him with a 4-star rating. While he doesn't have anything extremely special to push him over the edge into perfection territory, he's still well worth your time if you haven't gotten a version of the mold yet, which in Australia is entirely possible with a lack of stock until recently. Brawl though, he is very poor indeed. I got him before Vortex, and at first I was fairly forgiving. After I got Vortex though, the illusion was shattered and the true nature was revealed. So, for the first time on the show, I am giving this toy just a single star. Unless you're already getting the rest of Bruticus, you have no reason to pick him up. He's lucky to be a part of a combiner team to begin with, otherwise he'd be an even bigger failure. Seriously, Movie Legends Brawl was better than this. Hell, even the crappy G2 Megatron from Universe was better. This toy, it sucks! Honestly, why are they forcing this mold into both Combiner Wars Computron and BotCon Predicus or whatever the heck it's called? Why? This mold is terrible! This is why I'm going with Takara for Computron, and why I'm skipping out on Predicus. And don't even get me started on Leo Kaiser. No! Hasbro, no! Stop it! Stop! No!
You're a idiot. This needs to stop. Now. This is cancer. This is so much cancer that I can feel the tumors growing on my back. And it's way down heavy on me, and it's not okay. Just stop. Just stop it. Stop. No. Just stop it. It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more. Where the are your parents? Who are your parents? I'm gonna call Child Protective Services. It's time to stop!
Well, next time we're moving away from Transformers as well as articulation entirely. Ruby Volume 1 is showing in cinemas this Wednesday, and I've got myself a ticket for me and my friend. So I'm going to look at some statues and sort of celebrate that event. Until next time.